ASMR Magical Tools. Hello Pisces, welcome back. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Pisces, this is going to be your 2022 year ahead forecast deluxe guidance. So the way that this works is I'm going to start out with a month by month, and the month by month, I have to be honest, it can be a little bit brutal, but it's meant to provide a warning for anything that you need to look out for over the year ahead. And of course, like, there could be parts of it that, like, even though it says it's going to stretch from like May to September, like maybe you hit a speed run in June and then everything cools down just a bit. So it's not exact, but it's pretty close. I did also want to mention here on the front end of the video that I do custom videos, and you can find out more about that on my website. I have tarot readings and other oracular services available, as well at a few different price points. So I try to make it so that things can fit into a lot of people's budgets. Because I know, like, sometimes it can just be useful to get a tarot reading, right? And I also have a Lenormand deck that I've used in other videos that is for sale on my website. So I invite you to check out all of those things down in the description box. And now I'm going to start out with the Moon Power Tarot deck. So I'm going to do the month by month first, and then move on to an overview reading. And then at the end we'll get some bibliomancy in. And I'm going to clarify with the crystal scrying for the month by month readings. So I'll lay out all the cards, and then I will get more impressions about them using crystal scrying. And the video is broken up into segments so that you can come back and watch whatever part of it as you see fit. I know it's going to be a little bit long, so sometimes people like to watch it in pieces, and I totally understand. I do that with videos too. Pisces, go ahead and set your intention. Start thinking about the things that you are looking forward to in 2022. You guys have been so wonderfully patient to wait for your reading. You know I always do Pisces last. Alright, so let's look at January of 2022 for Pisces. Well, we've got the Two of Swords coming out upright, so there's going to be a choice for you to make. And it looks like we have two other cards coming out. This could be a choice between these two things, but it could also just be mitigating circumstances surrounding the situation in January. So, the first card that we have is the Ten of Pentacles reversed. So it could be that you are looking for closure in a situation regarding your financial payoff for something. Sometimes it can be like getting your big payout at the end of a job if you're doing contract work. Or maybe like this would be a situation where you had been promised a promotion or something and they haven't followed through with that yet. So you're on your way to being successful, but the reward is still slightly beyond. So not quite happened yet. We also have the Six of Cups in the reverse, and this is a card of things returning from the past. So when it is in the reverse like this, that is speaking to you about needing to move on from a situation, that things will not be returning from the past, and it's important to look forward to the future. So perhaps we can get a little more guidance about that when I go into the crystal scrying, but it kind of looks like you have an option between continuing to wait for something that might be a little bit further onward as far as a financial payout, or you have the option to move on and know that things are not returning from the past. So there might be things tied up in that situation where like somebody was supposed to come back and they were supposed to be like the person that you would work under. So that situation, whatever you're expecting to return from the past that is going to lead to this payout, those circumstances have changed. So that's not to say that that money won't still come in through that route in some other way, but if you were counting on somebody returning and you becoming their personal assistant, for example, or if you had been working under a certain person and then they left the company, then they're not going to come back in and tie up all the loose ends with you. So that's January of 2022. Let's look at February. Some of you Pisceans might be having a birthday at the end of February, right? We have some strong fire sign cards coming out for you here. We've got the King of Wands and we have the Strength card. So this very well could be a fire sign person, possibly a Leo, coming into your life in February. Now, the Strength card here is showing up upright and can have to do with having not just perseverance through situations, but there's an implication behind the Strength card. If you see here, right over her head, we have the lemniscate, which is the symbol for infinity. And this is a symbol which also shows up on the Magician card over the Magician's head. And it can speak about powers of manifestation, right? So this is also about the ability to manifest things into your life, and can also have ties to sex magic if that is something that you take part in. But of course, that is not going to apply to everybody here, but especially because it's showing up here with the King of Wands. The King of Wands can also be very tied to sex magic. So for those of you who do take part in that, there is an environment in February where you might have the opportunity to really put something into motion using those techniques. But I do also have the caveat of the Ten of Wands being here with it in the upright, that there's the possibility too that there's going to be bad So, just a heads up there. And if it's not through sex magic, it can be through other means. The King of Wands is somebody who rules through charm and charisma and has a lot of creative ideas to share with the world. So the manifestation can also come in that way. And I should have probably led with that because I know a lot of you probably don't practice in that way. But anyway, I guess what comes out is supposed to come out, right? Let's look now at the month of March. So a lot of you Pisceans are going to be having birthdays, solar returns in the month of March. And we have the Three of Wands in the reverse. We've got a lot of these, like, excuse me, I'm sorry. We have a lot of situations, it looks like, coming up in early 2022 where you're not getting closure on certain situations. So you've got like the Ten of Pentacles reversed here. The Three of Wands is a very similar card in terms of like things coming in based on energies that you've put out in the past. And I refer to the Three of Wands as the threefold card, that all of the energies that you've put out into the world are then returning to you threefold. But where we have this card showing up in the reverse, again, it's like energies that you've put out there, possibly like agreements that you've made with other people, and you're waiting for those things to come to fruition. We have the Judgment card in the reverse also. So this could be something like a trial, a test, a certification that you need to pass to keep a job, possibly. But the Judgment card can also be about, in the reverse like this, it can be about casting off the opinions of other people and refusing to allow the opinions of other people to influence you. Now, there are ramifications to that because sometimes self-improvement does come through listening to the opinions of other people, but sometimes it's important to cast off those judgments of others so that you can be true to yourself. And finally, we have the Four of Pentacles. So this card is about holding on to resources and holding on to things. To me, because this Three of Wands is coming up here after the Ten of Pentacles, because the Ten of Pentacles is very much about like a cycle kind of turning over. The Three of Wands, 3 is also a completion number, but of course it's much further down in the process. This is like the completion of phase 1 or something. I get an impression here that you have chosen to stay with this circumstance. And it is bringing you burdens through February, and still by March, you are not seeing the return that you were expecting. And the Judgment card in the reverse can be speaking to that too. Now, with that Four of Pentacles, we do see that you have resources accumulated such that you will not be left out in the cold by any means. But it looks like you're still kind of waiting for something. And we did have a lot of strong fire energy too, remember, in February, so it would be nice for you to be able to capitalize on that to the best of your ability. Now we're going to look at the month of April. Page of Swords in the reverse. Page of Swords in the reverse can be misinformation. It can also be eavesdropping or spying. Somebody spying on you and possibly misinformation coming about because of that. Because obviously, if you ask somebody forthright what the deal is, and you're able to get the straight story from the person in full honesty, of course, when available, that's one thing. But then when you get involved in this like spying on other people and these half-truths, that's when we get like Page of Swords coming out in the reverse. Yeah, and we have the High Priestess coming out in the reverse too, so there could be like a secret that comes out. Like, if you're holding on to any secrets, somebody could be spying on you and they could get like information about a secret that you've been keeping, but kind of not getting the full story, and therefore like possibly propagating like half-truths or filling in gaps in a way that's not fully truthful. And so now we have the progression to the Five of Pentacles in the reverse from the Four of Pentacles. So the Four of Pentacles, you're holding on to things. Five of Pentacles can be about being left out in the cold, but because it's showing up in the reverse, I feel like you have circumvented whatever this was going to be. Such that maybe other people perceive that you're not in a very good situation and perhaps are talking about you like you're not in a very good situation. But the truth of the matter is that you're doing just fine. So pay attention to what people are saying about you. Not because you need to really sink to that level, but pay attention to who is saying what about you, because you obviously want to be keeping people around you who have your best interests at heart and who are invested in your mutual long-term goals and situations. So if people are going around being like, oh, I actually heard that like Pisces had to move out of that one situation because like things were going really badly for them, you don't really need that energy in your life. It's not going to take you where you need to go. That person's not saying those things because they want to help you out. Alright, let's look at the month of May. May, we've got some very interesting energies coming through. So we have this Knight of Cups in the upright. The Knight of Cups is somebody who goes from their gut. They listen to their heart and their gut before they listen to their brain. And because this is in the upright, it is encouraging you to use that famous and phenomenal Pisces intuition to your best benefit in the month of May. We have a couple of very good energies coming through, but they're coming through in a very gestational and nascent sense. And I say that because we do have the Empress here. Now the Nine of Cups is a wish fulfillment card. So you're like right on the precipice of this wish fulfillment, right? And this is a very Pisces friendly water energy card, right? Both of these. So having that Knight of Cups there with the Nine of Cups. First of all, Knight rhymes with 9, right? And then the Knight of Cups could be bringing in that extra cup to is a satisfaction that comes with that. So, I would say I would encourage you very much to go with your intuition, especially because we have the Empress here and she's coming out reversed. So, there could be some situations in which perhaps you are struggling with fertility in some area of your life. It doesn't necessarily have to be struggling with like fertility in having a baby, but you could also be trying to get a project off the ground. The Empress is a card about these gestational energies where you plant a seed and the project is allowed to flourish over time, and you don't necessarily have to be fully hands-on with the particular project. That's kind of like the Empress card too is a really good card for developing like passive income, anything that is your baby's. So it looks like, especially with the Nine of Cups and the Empress cards both coming out reversed, the potential is there for this project to get off the ground. But the important thing for you to do in the month of May is listen very strongly to your heart and to your gut, and to follow those before you follow your brain. Now let's move on to the month of June. June. This hasn't been a very gut-wrenching reading so far. Not very like tough or difficult as far as like, you got a lot to look out for in the year ahead, Pisces. I don't want to jinx you, of course. We still have the second half of the year to get through. But it looks pretty good so far. Sometimes I get stuff coming through about the possibility of like losing a family member, and I do mention that. But of course, these are general readings, so that's really not going to apply to that many people. And that can look all kinds of different ways too. So let's look at the month of June. June. Wow, we have some really strong major arcana energies showing up with the Hermit and the Hanged Man. The Hermit is a card not just about self-isolation, but about really delving into the self to understand what is going on, what makes you tick. It is the card of Virgo, and so there's implications there of an attention to detail. We also have the Hanged Man. Now the Hanged Man is elemental water energy and is tied to the planet Neptune through that association also. So a card that is very similar to your energies, Pisces. But what we're looking at here is a very, like, the Hanged Man, there's also implications that this person is performing a ritual of self-sacrifice in order to obtain higher knowledge. So both of these figures are very invested in this opportunity to become much more aware of the inner workings of the self. And we could even see this as an evolution of this Knight of Cups energy from the previous month, learning to trust your own instincts. And we have with this card the Nine of Wands reversed, and you can see that the figure on this card is kind of like doing a shoulder stand, or like putting their legs up in the air, and they are pulling their skirt down possibilities with this, okay? So the first possibility is that there are certain delicate areas of your underbelly, Pisces, that delicious Piscean underbelly of yours that you are leaving exposed. And this process of illumination is going to help you find those weak points. Another possibility is that as you get to know yourself better and better, you are able to let your guard down in certain situations where you might have felt very uncomfortable before, because you know where your boundaries are, and you are able to really effectively endorse and define those boundaries with other people. And that kind of helping you to be less defensive in certain situations. Okay, so we've hit the halfway point of the year, and now we're moving into July. Pisces, I'm kind of excited for your year ahead. This looks really cool. So far, you guys have kind of won the luck of the draw so far. I don't want to jinx your reading, of course, but... okay, interesting. So there's going to be a situation that crops up in July, possibly. And I'll show you what we have here. We have the Two of Cups reversed. So the Two of Cups can be like about a relationship. We have the Three of Pentacles reversed. The Three of Pentacles can be about professional situations, and especially where you have collaborative teamwork going on. And then we have you here, the Queen of Cups, and you're showing up in the reverse. And of course, this particular card has a lot of different bottles and cups depicted on it. So there might need to be some moderation in the month of July when we're talking about imbibing intoxicating substances of different sorts. Having some moderation with our intoxicants. But this also, to me, I'm going to be really frank with you here. Looks like you are combining business with pleasure, and it doesn't end up working out to your benefit in July. So just be very careful about that. Go into that with an understanding ahead of time. If you do still choose to take part, I of course don't judge. I am not the kind of person who's gonna be like, oh, you should never date coworkers or whatever. But in this particular case, I see things kind of going awry and not working out for the best. And I do think there is a possibility that some of that has to do with because the Queen of Cups is showing up in the reverse, like hanging out and partying late at night, and therefore like things are kind of cropping up because of that. Your professionalism and your relationship like kind of coming into question. Alright, what about the month of August? August. We have the moon in the reverse. So this would have been very much like the lunar eclipse that we just experienced. I am recording this Thanksgiving week in November of 2021. I got almost everyone else's readings recorded before the eclipse, but I wasn't really like timing around that or anything, so it's not that big a deal. The moon also is Pisces card in the major arcana, even though the moon is native to Cancer. So here's the deal, Pisces. Here in July, you are showing up as the Queen of Cups reversed. And here in August, you are showing up as the moon in the reverse. There's kind of like a total waning of the energy here. And it's coming on the heels of these 2 months where you were doing really well and you were like really getting to know yourself. And then something happens, and so sometimes what can happen is that when you go through these periods of self-development, there will be circumstances which make you feel like you're backsliding, like your old habits will crop up again and kind of slap you in the face. And so I don't want you to get discouraged about anything that might happen in July or August, because that's a totally natural part of this process. Progress in a spiritual sense is not linear, okay? So, I mean, sometimes you just have to walk in circles a few times before everything reaches concretion, okay? So, let's find out more about this. The moon in the reverse can also be like things becoming very unclear and murky. We have the Ten of Cups coming out in the reverse. So there could be situations that, like a Ten of Cups in the reverse can be a falling out of a long-term relationship too. We had the Two of Cups here in the reverse, and then we have the Ten of Cups coming out the next month in the reverse. And I don't always read this card this way. Like, sometimes the Ten of Cups is a really good card even when it comes out in the reverse. But there are certain circumstances in a reading where you could read it as potentially like a breakup or the dissolution of a long-term friendship. And we have the Seven of Swords coming out. So the Seven of Swords can be backstabbing and self-deception, deception of others, all kinds of like underhanded behaviors, theft, betrayal. So I do feel like in July and August, here in the summer months, there could be some things that are going on in your personal life that possibly leak over into your professional life that have to do with some drama. But that's why we do these readings. See, I knew I was jinxing you by saying, oh, I'm so jealous about your year ahead. It looks so cool. But it doesn't work like that. It does not work like that, Pisces. What's going to come out is going to come out. And it's better to know about it than not to know. I think. I would rather know. So now we're headed into the back third of the year, where we're looking at September through December of 2022. And the month of September, everybody kind of starts buckling down. School's back in session. We're going into the fall. So let's see what's going on there. Excuse me, I'm having like stomach issues. See, here we have the King of Cups coming out. This could potentially be you, or this could be somebody else who is very paternal and very warm and fostering of your energies. King of Cups is air of water energy, so combines air with the passive element of water. But this is somebody who like actively takes care of other people. So this could be you after you have this couple months where you're kind of not feeling yourself very much. Then you come back strong as the King of Cups to go back to being like the parental caretaker friend. And we have the Lovers card coming out. So whatever this situation was over the summer, I think you start turning it around in September, and love ends up coming back into your life. The Lovers card can be a card about choices too, but look at that intense magnetic energy. The two lovers lighting matches off of each other. That's really great symbolism. We also have the Five of Swords in the reverse. So, a lot of times the Five of Swords in the reverse can be like utter defeat. But in this particular case, I kind of see it as like giving up on the combat that's been going on over the past couple of months. There could be like air sign energy associated with that too. That, where we have like you being very much in your elemental energies with the Knight of Cups. Here where you're embracing this King of Cups energy, which as I mentioned is air of water energy, where you see conflict, where you see the potential for conflict here. With this Five of Swords, you're kind of rejecting those situations and trying to mitigate and arbitrate and negotiate as much as possible. And Lovers too is Gemini energy, so we have a lot of air energy coming through in September, which is good because water, there's a lot of motion to it, and of course still waters run deep, but there can also be like kind of gross stagnancy, like down underneath the surface, and of course like water without exposure to air has a potential to get moldy and things like that. So what that air energy does is it creates a good, positive flow of energy that can carry old things out and bring in new energies. So it's good to get that kind of alchemical cleansing. So let's look at the month of October. Month of October 2022. Cool. We have the Eight of Wands here. The Eight of Wands is a closure. This is a release. This is an ending to something. A definitive ending, and it comes in swiftly. Swift ending. And a new beginning with this Ace of Wands here. So it's kind of like we skip the turmoil of the Nine of Wands and the Ten of Wands. We've already had those come out. So we skipped all of that. And now you're finally able to get that closure. Well, I guess you didn't skip it if you went through it earlier in the year. But you're getting a closure with something. And a new beginning. And the Ace of Wands is great energy for a creative new beginning. And there's a lot of energy there. Wands are fire element. So there's a lot of potency. It's a very it's a card about masculine fertility as well. So, elemental fire. After we have this cleansing of air, we get the cleansing of fire, right? And the final card for October, we have the Seven of Pentacles, and it's coming out in the reverse. So this is letting go of a situation where you have put in a lot of work that it hasn't paid off the way that you needed it to have it be a productive part of your life still. So I call this Seven of Pentacles the quit your job card, because that's kind of the energy of like it's time to quit that job if you're getting the Seven of Pentacles reversed. It also says that you've already put in the hard work behind whatever this is. So keep in mind too that the Magician card, which has not come out in this reading, but the Magician is holding the wand. So there's a lot to do with manifestation energies with the Ace of Wands too. So where we were looking at these manifesting energies back here and some other places in the reading, it could be that finally whatever that manifestation is comes to fruition for you, Pisces, in October. Alright, and now we're getting close to... that is too many. But we did have the Magician come out. You say their name enough and they will come out. So I'm going to take these 3 cards. Yes, so the Magician's coming out, that manifestation coming into being. We have the Nine of Pentacles. So whatever this Ten of Pentacles in the reverse, whatever you're waiting for there, I think it's coming through in November. And then finally we have the Eight of Swords reversed. So you're not feeling trapped anymore. You're no longer feeling trapped. And finally December of 2022. Alright, the Page of Wands. Page of Wands is an excellent energy to get in the last month of the year, heading into the new year. This Page of Wands can be anything from a one-night stand type energy to a child being born to a new creative project. Then we have the Knight of Wands in the reverse, so that's very interesting. So it's the Page of Wands, it's not the Knight of Wands though, is kind of what this is saying. Knight of Wands is fire of fire energy. And the Page of Wands is fire of earth energy. So there's a groundedness to it as well. So in addition to being a new beginning, there's also a grounded energy there that keeps it from burning too out of control like this Knight of Wands energy would be. But there's also the warning there, because this card is showing up in the reverse. There's a warning against putting yourself too far out there, like putting your eggs in too many baskets, or like burning the candle at both ends. Just make sure that you're being conservative with your energies. And finally, we have the Wheel of Fortune. So this is very good fortune turning in your favor. The Wheel of Fortune is kind of like the wheel of karma, the Dharma Chakra, if you will. That what goes around comes around. So finally here, at the end of 2022, we're seeing the culmination and payoff from all of this stuff that you were looking at earlier in the year. It looks Okay, so now I'm going to bring out my beautiful heart-shaped geode. See, this is the upper chamber of the heart. It's kind of like a lizard heart, probably, because I think those only have like 3 chambers. A cross section. And we're going to go through month by month and feel out the energies for the year ahead. So January of 2022 for Pisces. What am I looking at here? So, I don't really watch that show, Mad Men, right? But there's kind of like this boys club advertising agency energy here to January of 2022. And some of you might be dealing with like a very quote-unquote old school type situation where you're kind of like, I don't understand why I'm not advancing at this particular organization, and it's just because they're completely oblivious. You know, like, oh, I thought they just made coffee or something. It's not quite like that. Like, I'm sure that they kind of understand what your contribution is, but like, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's tough to explain sexism. It's very difficult to explain people's ignorance. But it could be something like that, like a glass ceiling is definitely in place there, but it's not like being enforced, it's just being ignored. How about February? What are these energies for February of 2022? Something about a gas mask. That maybe like you should invest in a straight up gas mask. Make sure you're wearing protection, but not just like, because I know I brought up sex magic, but not just like that. Like, I'm seeing like an actual gas mask here, and it could be that you're traveling to a part of the world where there's like a lot of air pollution, or it could be that wherever you live, there are circumstances that cause a lot of toxins to be in the air, that in February it would be a good idea to have an actual and literal gas mask at your disposal. Because I also don't think this is like a prop item or something that you have for fun. Like, this is like an actual respirator. But it's not because of like the virus. This would be because of toxins in the air. So it could even be like if you live in an area that has a lot of wildfires, that you might end up needing a respirator for some reason. What about the month of March? March of 2021. The spying doesn't start here in April, it starts here in March. Somebody who's close to you, I think you're talking about like this 3 of Wands thing, and they misconstrue that because they don't understand that you also have these reserves at your disposal. So that's why we have this Judgment card coming out here in the reverse for March. Keep your guard up, because there are prying eyes around you, and even if you say just like little casual stuff that's not that big of a deal to you, they're gonna misconstrue it and they're going to mislabel it when they hand it out on the street corner for other people's perusal. What are we looking at here for the month of April of 2022 for Pisces? Pisces. I caught a whiff of something that was kind of like when you go to like a whiff of bleach, like when you go to the pool supply store and the whole store like reeks like chlorine. So there's like this kind of salty smell and kind of like a bleachy smell on top of it. I really hope this isn't somebody cleaning up a large quantity of blood, because that's kind of what it smells like. But it is like kind of an oceany kind of a smell too, but like with a lot of bleach on top of it. So I'm not quite sure what's going on here. Let me take a moment. Like cleaning a fishing boat. Yeah, like somebody having a houseboat, but like it needs to be cleaned like really heavily. Like some of you could be staying on a houseboat over the summer, which would be nice. That would be a lot of fun, and just kind of cut loose and go up and down the coast wherever you are. But that the boat itself needs to be deeply cleaned. Deeply cleaned. And that, of course, can leak into a lot of different situations. This is a general reading, so like if all of you get to live on a houseboat over the summer, that would be sick, and I would definitely want that for you. But it's a general reading, so that's probably not what's going to happen for everyone. What are we looking at in May of 2022? He didn't hurt you as badly as you feel like he did. And I don't think he is like a romantic partner. Like you could have been romantically involved at some point, but I think it is involved in this situation up here from January, where like you feel like your professional reputation might have taken a hit. I don't think that's the case at all. I think that's a projection on your part. What about June? What's going on in June of 2022? Hatred, misdirection, and then I feel like pressure like on my head, like I've been hit with something in the head, but I don't think like you're actually in danger of getting hit in the head in June. But do watch about keeping your guard up, because remember we had the 9 of Wands coming out in the reverse, and that would definitely be like getting hit in the head with a wand, right? Getting hit in the head with a stick was kind of what I was feeling. So I think more of a warning to like keep your guards up, and especially because the cards that we had coming out for that, remember, had a lot to do with this idea of self-journey. So it's super important, Pisces, to properly ward yourself, because when you start doing work like this, you light up like a candelabra, and all kinds of entities are going to be attracted to you. So make sure that you're properly warding while you're doing this work, even if it doesn't seem metaphysical. Even if it doesn't seem like you're, doing anything magical or spiritual per se, make sure that you're properly warding. Selenite, incense like frankincense, incense, stick incense, just normal plain stuff. You don't need to buy anything like Palo Santo or sage that's possibly endangered, I would just use whatever it is that you have around your house already. Pine sol. Pine sol is widely overlooked, and especially if you put a little Florida water and cinnamon in there, use stuff like that around your house. What are we looking at for June for Pisces? Pisces in the month of sorry. July's gonna be crazy. July is gonna be messy and crazy, and you're not even gonna believe. But I would take like a step back. I would just take a step back and realize that this year is temporary. This year is temporary, and it affects you a lot less than you would believe at the time. And especially if you don't allow it to affect you that heavily, I would just kind of blow this situation off. Is there anything else I need to tell Pisces about August? Enjoy it, honestly, have a good time. And whatever ends up being messy or icky, just brush it off, because I don't think it's going to be affecting you later in the year. In fact, by September, everything's going to have calmed down. So, and like I said before, like maybe you have a speed run that lasts from May to September of this reading. All of that could potentially happen over the course of like 2 weeks or 3 days or something. But this is kind of to give you like a timeline of the events that you're going to be looking out for in the next year. So maybe they line up exactly month by month. Maybe they don't. What are we looking at for September of 2022? Yeah, you're really going to be like, this is going to be the culmination of this middle part of the year where you really come into your own as the King of Cups, and you start being like really reliable for other people, and it brings situations into your life that are much more permanent, and it kind of excises situations from your life that are tempestuous and messy. What about October of 2022? Some of you are going to have an art gallery showing in October, or there's going to be like a retrospective of your work or some other kind of like presentation. Maybe not, it wouldn't exactly be like a live concert. This is going to be something where your work is being displayed. So there's more like a passive energy to it. There's not like active performance necessarily. Not to say you won't be performing in October, but I think there's going to be either like videos that you made during quarantine or other artifacts of your work are going to be on display for a much wider audience than perhaps you would get like one night only engagement. What about November? He's going to ask you for some kind of commitment, so this doesn't have to be like a he, quote unquote. It could be, gender non-specific here. Somebody's going to be asking you for a commitment. And I feel like this isn't necessarily a marriage, but it could be like a business agreement. It could definitely be like cuffing up for the season, such that you become entangled with somebody. But we do have that 8 of Swords in the reverse, so this isn't being trapped in a situation. This isn't going to be like being in a bound type situation. This is going to be like somebody asking you to sign a contract for something, or somebody being like, hey, I really like you, can we be boyfriend and girlfriend, or girlfriend and girlfriend, or boyfriend and boyfriend? You get the idea. What about December of 2022? Ask for what it is that you want. So I'm not somebody who talks a lot about your spirit guides and the angels and stuff, but when you get here to December of 2022, this is going to be the time to ask your spirit guides and your angelic presences and whoever it is that you are working with entity-wise. That's going to be the time to ask ask them, because I think a lot of the manifestations that you're doing throughout the rest of the year, and remember that we had the magician coming through in November after I talked about them, so you're gonna have like some of your manifestations coming through, but the end of the year is gonna be when you politely request divine intervention to tie up any loose ends or to get any extra guidance that you're gonna need to take you into 2023. And that's what this is about. There's going to be like kind of a karmic accounting that you do at the end of the year with your higher power. Not because you did anything bad or wrong, but like, where is it that I need to give back in 2023? And where is it that I need to pull my energies back from situations that are not productive for me? So you're going to be going through like this karmic accounting process, and part of that is going to be asking for help from your entities. Okay, Pisces, so now we're heading into the second half of the reading, in which I use the She-Wolf Tarot to lay out a Celtic Cross. And then I'm going to put the 12 houses spread around that using portions of the Celestial Bodies deck. So both of these are Serpent Fire decks. If you're interested in acquiring one for yourself, which I do recommend, the Celestial Bodies deck is like a Swiss Army knife of decks. It's got like numerologies in there and different astrological placements and the houses and everything like that. So if that is something that interests you, I definitely recommend it. But I'm going to be using some of the astrological cards from that deck and planetary cards. Admittedly, these cards are a little bit larger, and it makes it more difficult for me to shuffle them. Alright, so let's look at the cards. Starting out strong with the King of Pentacles, crossed by the Two of Wands, Two of Cups in the past, Knight of Swords underfoot. Oh, we have the Tower in the future in the upright. And the Moon, you're showing up in the midheaven again. And you're showing up in your own energy placement. Alright, so let's see what we have here. As I mentioned, we start out the reading with the King of Pentacles crossed by the Two of Wands. So I think you're going to be starting out the year financially flush, in a good position. And the Two of Wands is about taking an account of what you need to do to move forward. So like charting your course, and planning and doing your vision boarding and things like that. We have in the past the Two of Cups in the reverse, so this could be a situation where you end a relationship going into 2022. That's possible. Or that there was a breakup that kind kind of facilitated some of these other things. Two of Cups can be the dissolution of a friendship also, but doesn't necessarily have to be thus. Down here in the Imam Silai position, we have the Knight of Swords, and it's in the reverse. So the Knight of Swords can be overly dogmatic and blinded to what's actually right by their own ideas and their own ideals of justice. So that could be happening for or against you. And that could lead to this situation up here in the midheaven. We'll pull more cards about that and it'll clear things up a bit. So then we have your perspective on situations. We also have the outside perspective. So your perspective on the situation. You're showing up in your own energy strongly as the Queen of Cups, this time in the upright. From the outside perspective, we see the Nine of Pentacles. So think that people see that you're doing well for yourself. So I know that we did talk about some people spreading some rumors about, how you may or may not be doing, but I think for the most part, people see that you're doing well in 2022. In the future, we have the Tower card, so there is going to be a lot of change for you over the course of the year. That's not necessarily bad. Remember, we're cutting things out that no longer work for us and having new things come in that will be much better. Here in the area of your hopes and fears, we have the Knight of Cups in the reverse. I think that you could be afraid of being too driven by your emotions, and afraid to trust your own intuition. So I would urge you to definitely put a lot more faith in your intuition and listen to your heart and gut. Here in the midheaven, the destiny position, we have the moon in the upright. The moon can be about artistic endeavors. This is another one of your cards showing up, and remember that in the month by month it was showing up in the reverse, but here we have it showing up in the upright. The moon can speak to treacherous pathways beset on both sides by danger, but that's not always the case. The moon is also a wonderful energy for charting one's cycles. The moon influences how water moves on the surface of the earth. As I mentioned, it's Pisces card in the Major Arcana, and so I think there's really something to be said for tapping into these lunar energies, especially, remember I said for like December of 2022, that's going to be a good time to bring in your spirit guides for guidance. So, especially if you are working with lunar associated deities, that's going to have a special significance. And then the final outcome, we do have the Nine of Wands coming out in the upright. So this is urging you to protect yourself. Use proper wards. Excuse me. Sorry about that, I sneezed. But even more reason to use proper warding and to really figure out who is seeing you as this Queen of Cups, who is seeing you in your abundance, and who is kind of trying to spread this false rhetoric about you. And they might have their own reasons for doing so. They might think that they're in the right to do so, but that you really should be surrounding yourself with people who see you in your abundance. So now I'm going to use these different parts of the celestial bodies deck first I'm going to lay out the, these are the astrological signs. The signs of the zodiac cards. So I'll lay those out first in the 12 houses. And I apologize if that me sniffing in the microphone might have been kind of loud. Okay. In Pisces, you're coming out in the 3rd house of communication. Which puts you also in the realm of the Imam Silai placements. Next, we're using the planetary bodies, so this also includes things like the South and North nodes, and Black Moon Lilith, and Chiron, as well as the planets that we recognize. I mean, we recognize all the planets and placements and things from astrology. I just wanted to clarify that those are not technically planets. And the one card that ends up not being used is Mercury. So here you are in the 3rd house, which would be a native placement of Mercury. The 6th house also being a native placement. But in regards to that communication, we're going to be looking at it more in the context of Chiron than in the context of Mercury. So that's interesting. Chiron being the wounded healer, having to heal the parts of yourself before you go on to help others in the same way. And finally, these are, there's moon cycles in here. There's things like the midheaven and the descendant and all of that. So this is just going to give us like a little bit more context for all these different situations that we see here. Okay. Alright, so the 1st house here, remember we have this 2 of Cups in the past. We're looking at last quarter moon energy. So this is in the home stretch toward the new moon. This cycle is going to be ending for you in 2022, but it is going to set the stage because the 1st house is about beginnings. It's also about the self. So here we have South Node and North Node in reference to Aries. So this would either be South Node Aries, North Node Libra, or North Node Aries, South Node Libra. But the South Node and North Node have a lot to do with destiny. They have a lot to do with your ancestral energies and what it is that you have come here to work on. So, Aries showing up in its native house, the 1st house, beginnings. Selfish behaviors, childish behaviors could be something that you're kind of like working and pushing those things out of your life. Aries could also mean that there's like a beginning to something that that has to do with your ancestral energies and finding out more about where it is that you come from. And you could be in the final part of the first phase of that project, if that makes sense. Like maybe you just got your DNA sequenced to find out more about your heritage, and now you're starting to like go off on that journey and find out more about what that means. Here in the second house, so this is about finances and stability, and this is over here where you're showing up in your power as the Queen of Cups. We have the new moon energy, so the beginning of a new cycle for you as far as your finances and stability are concerned. And we have the sun in Cancer. Now, solar energies are very powerful, very excellent to work with because the sun never goes retrograde. It's the center of our solar system, and it provides energy to our planet for free. But remember that sun is in Cancer in June and July, and remember, like, July was starting to get kind of messy in the month by month. And Cancer has to do with your reciprocity of emotions with other people. So there's a new cycle beginning for you regarding the way that you form reciprocity with other people emotionally. And that, I think, is going to be a little bit messy for you during Cancer season. We also, when we have the new moon and the sun showing up together with Cancer as the sign, you could also take that as like new moon is when the sun and the moon are conjunct. So that could also be like sun and moon in Cancer. And that moon in Cancer is its native placement. So another thing that you're seeing with that is fellow water sign energy, and the sun and moon being conjunct. You're getting like all the darker and more emotional aspects, and those are being muted by that overwhelming power of the sun. And the sun, the sign of Cancer is a cardinal sign. So cardinally speaking, like, would be to the south because it's the native of the fourth house. So we would pretend that that is on the south side, so to speak, of your astrological chart when you have it laid out. But what I'm getting at here is that cardinal signs are very like true to their nature, more so than like a fixed sign would be true to themselves. And then you, Pisces, as a mutable sign, are very changeable, like very flexible in the way that you see things, in the way that, well, I could see how something could be like this and it could also be like this. So where we have like this Cancerian energy coming up here, and especially in the context, and I know I've spent a lot of time on this, but I really feel like, especially because this is going to be affecting your finances and your sense of stability over the course of 2022, that whereas you are a mutable sign and more likely to be flexible, like over the course of 2022 with these Cancerian fellow water sign energies, you might actually be finding yourself becoming like truer to like your nature, truer to the nature of your emotions than being like Piscean in that aspect and being more flexible where that's concerned. I hope that makes sense. Let's look at the third house. So the third house is where your energy of Pisces is showing up. It's down here next to the MMCli where we have that Knight of Swords in the reverse. So somebody being possibly like overly dogmatic or overly dogmatic energies leading to whatever this is in the midheaven. So people being overly dogmatic, then you doubling down. What am I? Who am I? What is my nature? What is the truth of why I'm here? And that being the result of that. We do have the solar eclipse energy coming out for this. And the solar eclipse, of course, is the time when the moon actually blocks out the light of the sun. During an eclipse, both the sun and the moon then are also like right there at the node of the moon. That's kind of the point at which their orbits the sun, the way that the earth orbits the sun and then the moon's orbit. That's the point at which the sun and moon are going to appear the closest together, because the rest of the time, the sun's going to be like over here and the moon's going to be over here. But when they're both at the node, that's where their orbits kind of like intersect, if that makes sense. But it's a very rare occurrence to have the moon completely block out the sun's light. And therefore, it's a very transformative energy. And remember, we had just got done talking here in the second house about the sun and the moon being conjunct in Cancer. Now, I don't think that there's a eclipse in Cancer next year, but something to think about, especially there might be a revolution in the way that you communicate with other people. This could be something that affects your relationship with your siblings. It could be related to your surroundings. And it's going to be related to, with Chiron here, it's going to be related to something about yourself which you are working on. And it could be your flexibility, like that you are too flexible with other people, such that when other people are very dogmatic with you, that you have a tendency to just kind of be, laissez-faire about it and go along with, things to just like avoid conflict or whatever. But that actually, that's something that you're going to be working on over the year ahead, and this is going to affect your neighborhood. This is going to affect short distance travel and your communication especially, and possibly relationships with siblings. So now the fourth house has to do with your home and family. And we have the full moon energy coming out here. So this is going to be the apex, the peak of this particular cycle for you. And we have Black Moon Lilith in Capricorn. So Black Moon Lilith is the ways in which we end up being vilified. And when we have Black Moon Lilith in the pragmatic and career-minded sign of Capricorn, and especially when that's showing up in your fourth house, somebody is going to tell you that you need better boundaries between your work life and your home life. And And it's possible that's true, but it's also possible that the nature of your particular career, especially if it's a creative career that you're very passionate about, it's possible that that is integrated into your lifestyle in a way that you're fully content with. Therefore, someone bringing that up as a problem for you is going to become a problem between the two of you, if that makes sense. Let's look now at the 5th house. The 5th house is your passions. This can be children, it can be creative endeavors, it can also be love and romance. It's the house of the heart. So this is where we have the 9 of Pentacles, which is an excellent energy for being successful. It really reinforces that King of Pentacles energy that came out. And this represents also, this placement within the reading represents other people's perceptions of you over the course of 2022. So here we have the lunar eclipse. And that energy is, it's a very peaceful energy, actually. It's very quiet. It's a very, it's the darkest of the dark. So it's not going to get any less illuminated. This is the nadir, energetically, of a moon cycle, even though it happens when the moon is full, very likely. Well, it does happen when the moon is full, because obviously the earth is going to be between the sun and the moon, and that's what is casting that shadow, right? And we have here Mars in Taurus. So Taurus is an earth energy. It's fixed sign, earth, so very stable. That's why it is the ruler of the 2nd house, right, of finances and stability. Craves comfort. But where we have Mars in Taurus, Mars is a planet of action and is fire energy affiliated. So there is an aspect of having this drive to do things, but then also being very slow moving. So it's not that there's a lack of energy there, because Mars really is going to be bringing in that passion, that fiery energy. But with Taurus, there's very much this slowness to action, such that everything can be evaluated for its benefit, and that earth sign energy. So where we have this lunar eclipse coming in, it could be that you're very, very, very busy, very, very busy, and then all of a sudden there's a dead spot energetically, and a temporary blackout, and then everything kind of comes back together again. But this would be more like a slow increase also. Lots of Pentacles energy for you in 2022. Very good. Let's look now at the 6th house. So remember that here in the future position, we have the Tower card, which is called the Will of Mars here in this deck. And it is Mars's card within the tarot. So that means that it is associated with the sign of Scorpio, and it is also associated with the sign of Aries. Aries being the beginning of new things, and Scorpio being about transformative energies, much like you see with a similar card to the Tower, the Death card, which is Scorpio's card. Here in the 6th house, we're looking at your daily routines, your health over the next year. And we have the Descendant coming out here. So Virgo would be the Descendant for you, Pisces. If Pisces is your Ascendant. if you're a Pisces rising. And Pisces being the ruler of the 12th house, then this would technically be your descendant. And we have Pluto and Sagittarius energy here, so this is transformational energies regarding your higher self, and you're reaching for your higher self. Pluto is a card of very transformative energies and is associated with Scorpio. And so like Mars and Pluto energies, of course, coming together can be very tower-like. But where we have Sagittarius, that has to do with the ways that you improve yourself, right? So there's going to be a lot of change going on there, and the descendant house is the house of other. So this can have to do with like partnerships also. Now, this is right below the 7th house, so the descendant has a lot of similar aspects to the 7th house energies, because in your chart the descendant is going to be in your 7th house, but here it's showing up in the 6th house with these very transformative and self-improving energies. And I think that a big drive for you to be doing this is the health of your relationships with other people. And that in order for you to have good, healthy boundaries and relationships with other people, there's going to have to be a change in the things that you do for your own self-improvement. And remember, we did have that period where you had like the Hermit card and the Hanged Man like hanging out together, and I think there's going to be kind of a changeover and a transformation at that point in the year for you. Let's look at the 7th house now. And the 7th house is the house of other. It is the descendant proper, even though we have the descendant card coming out there. And the house of other can deal with romantic relationships, business partnerships, even like court cases and open enemies. So this is waxing crescent energy. This is immediately after the new moon. So where we had the new moon energies down here in the 2nd house. Now, quincunx to that, we've got waxing crescent energies coming out of that. And we have moon in Leo energy. Moon in Leo is a love of extravagant things. There is aspects there of high fashion. There are aspects there of the emotional boost that you get from compliments and things like that. So I think a new cycle is going to be beginning here for you when it comes to your relationships with other people. Leo is also a fixed energy. I want to point that out too. So I think that there's going to be kind of, depending on what your Pisces placement is and what other signs you have in your big three of like sun, moon, and rising. So Pisces being mutable energy, I think you're going to be pulling in more fixed and cardinal characteristics over the year of 2022, and this definitely speaks to that. But Leo is also a very gregarious sign, loves to have a good time. It's kind of a party energy. So I think that there's a new cycle beginning for you, that you're not taking certain aspects of relationships quite as seriously, in favor of having more of a, I don't want to say more of a sense of self, because I think a lot of Pisceans really do have a strong sense of self. But really, what's telling is this card of the Knight of Swords being down here in the Imam Selah in the reverse. that like other people's dogmatic behaviors can be overly influential to you, and I think that is what this is speaking to here in the 7th house. Alright, so now we're going to come up here to the 8th house, and remember that we have the Knight of Cups in the reverse here, that you might be afraid to listen to your own intuition about certain things. The 8th house is a house of transformation. That's death, sex, and other people's resources, right? And here we're looking back to the Imam Sila, and remember the energies that we have down here, and talking about that Knight of Swords in the reverse again. See, you're afraid to trust your own intuition because other people have been very persuasive with you about their way of thinking, almost to a fault, right? And here we have Jupiter in Aquarius energy, which is something that we are working with right now, as a matter of fact. So Jupiter is about expansion, and can be about expansion of social groups. So I think that it's possible that the people that you've had around you at the origin of this situation, gosh, I'm sorry. I guess I'm working through some energies right now. The people that you've had around you that have been influencing you in this way, I think you're going to be expanding your social groups. And that's going to add to the revolutionary nature of this, that you will be transformed by your getting to know many more people throughout 2022 and completely changing your social circles. So let's look up here in the midheaven position where we have the moon. Now, the moon can be a very dark and mysterious card. It can speak to danger, but I think because it is your card in the major arcana Pisces, that this is one unique case where I would say that the moon coming out in the midheaven actually speaks to you being closer to your truth than ever before. Let's look at the 9th house. So the 9th house, as I mentioned, with Sagittarius energy, the ruler of the 9th house, we're looking at ways that we improve ourselves, that we achieve our highest self. So this is things like long distance travel, can be higher education, and also speaks to your relationships with spiritual organizations. And we have the waxing gibbous moon energy coming out. So that's an energy of almost being at its fullest point, almost reaching the apex of that energetic cycle. And we have Venus in Virgo. So Venus in Virgo, being detail-oriented when it comes to finance and when it comes to romance, paying attention to red flags, even if you're just watching them float lazily in the breeze as you disregard them. Venus in Virgo, you can be very particular about romantic entanglements. So that might be an energy that you embrace throughout 2022, that you have been working on for a while, but it might be getting to a point where you're really reaching like the climax of this energy, that you're really like honing in on what it is that you're looking for romantic partners and what it is that you're looking for in business partners as well. Because remember, like, Venus isn't just romance. Venus also has to do with finance. And now we're going to look at the 10th house of career. We have void of course moon here. So this is kind of like being in a holding pattern. The void of course moon is after the moon makes its last placement with another celestial body in a sign, and then moves into the next sign. That little span of time is called the void of course moon, and it is remaining in that previous astrological energy for just a little while longer, and so being in kind of a holding pattern before moving into the next astrological sign. And here we have Saturn in Gemini. There could be a slowing down of things like short distance travel and communication with other people because of what we were seeing here with the solar eclipse and Pisces and Chiron down here in the third house in the Imam Sili. That if you have had kind of an approach previously of scattershot cold calling people to get work, I think you're going to be a lot more cautious with your energies when it comes to communicating with other people about business. Saturn's a very slow moving energy, very stoic kind of, and very established. So you might be waiting for very high ticket contracts to communicate with people about those, rather than trying to get a job here and a job there and kind of spreading your energies out very thin. Now, because we're looking at this void of course energy, I think there are going to be remnants of that old style of communication, but what is going to end up happening is that you will be forced into this new way of thinking, because the old way of doing things is going to stop working for you. And don't be scared of that happening. It'll be better for you, I promise. Alright, so up here in the final outcome position, this is close to the 11th house, that we have the 9 of Wands here in the upright. And the 11th house has to do with social groups, social media. It's the native house of Aquarius, and it can be about like brand new ways of doing things that no one's ever tried before. Also, it's air sign energy, but having this 9 of Wands here, being more guarded, going into new social groups. We have waning gibbous moon energy here, so this is right after the full moon, right past the peak of illumination. And we have Neptune in the sign of Scorpio. So the planet of Neptune is very watery, and it is native to your sign, Pisces. But as far as luminaries go, it also has a lot to do with your relationship to your higher power and your intuition. And scorpionic energy is, of course, embracing change, death, and sex. There is going to be a big change in the way that you intuit, that the way that you trust your gut. There are big changes coming for your intuition. And so I think a lot of that is going to have to do with your interactions with social groups. Alright, and now we're going to circle back around to the 12th house. This is at the energy of endings. This is anything that could go potentially wrong, but I don't usually read the 12th house that way. It can have to do with incarceration, and it also has to do with your intuition. So, going back and paying attention to the midheaven, definitely bringing in that moon major arcana energy. And then we also have Uranus in the sign of Libra. So Uranus is air energy by way of Aquarius. But where we have Uranus, the iconoclast, in the sign of Libra, which is very much about balance, equilibrium, about fair-mindedness, and things like that, partnerships. So Uranus being these novel ideas, iconoclastic ways of thinking, and drawing that into how you build partnerships with other people. And this being associated here with your destiny and how you make your money moving forward. So there's going to be brand new ways that you form these partnerships, and that is going to be what really transforms your ability to make money in 2022. Okay, Pisces, so drop some cow emojis down in the comments if you made it this far to the bibliomancy, because we are reading from the sacred text, The Prehistory of the Far Side, by the Holy Prophet Gary Larson. Yeah, this one. So here we have the sketch. This is the rough draft, and this is the final panel down here. And basically, the caption says, "Suddenly the burglars found themselves looking down the barrel of Andy's Doberman-O-matic." So it's like a slingshot that shoots a Doberman pinscher at your target. When an idea hits, it's important for me to write it down or sketch it as quickly as possible. I've lost more than one cartoon idea because I thought I could remember it later. Leafing through my sketchbook, I was surprised to find this Doberman gun idea, which sparked the Doberman-O-matic cartoon. So that's going to be crucial for you. Record keeping, Pisces, is going to be crucial for you over the course of the next year. Don't forget that we had the Two of Wands as our crossing energy for that King of Pentacles. So don't think that you're just going to be able to remember it. Carry around a sketchbook and a pen. Don't just rely on your notes app on your phone either, although that is another excellent tool, your notes app. I use my calendar a lot. Use a sketchbook, carry around a pad and a piece of paper in case you need to sketch something down really quick. That's going to be crucial to not forgetting these gems of ideas. Another thing to take away from this situation where you've got this guy who has this slingshot, basically, that shoots out Doberman pinchers, sorry. Golden retrievers and Doberman pinchers. I do like dogs a lot, but I don't really do well with pet or plant ownership. That's beside the point. So this Doberman slingshot that you could use to defend yourself against would-be thieves and robbers. What kind of person is that really going to work against? It's kind of a outstanding, and it's a very Uranian idea, right? It's very much like Uranus. Very out there, very iconoclastic. Who would even think to have such a device in their home? And I'm sure that these two guys are never going to forget this moment for the rest of their very, very short lives. Right? So, whatever it is that you are using as your self-defense is going to be so novel in its approach. It's going to catch people completely off guard. And it's going to make it that much easier for you to enforce good boundaries with others, Pisces. Thank you for joining me. I really hope that you enjoyed this reading, and I hope you will watch your other placements as well, and share these readings with your friends who also like tarot and the occult and ASMR. I really appreciate all of you who made it to the end of the video. I appreciate all of you who didn't make it to the end of the video. Thank you so much for your support, and I hope to see you again very,